This shouldn't be happening. For decades, we've been pointing our best antennas into deep space. We're waiting for answers from the boundless universe. Scientists are building massive radio telescopes in the hope of detecting even the slightest sign of alien intelligence. But what we find out there defies all logical explanation. The data doesn't match any of our models. Astronomers have long developed equations to estimate the odds of encountering extraterrestrials. Calculations indicate a high probability of the existence of habitable worlds with advanced technologies. Researchers were fully confident that their years-long search would soon succeed. The equipment was supposed to pick up alien television broadcasts or navigation beacons from other civilizations. Instead, the instruments detect only the lifeless noise of dead stars and the background radiation of space. Our picture of the world has collided with a harsh and utterly incomprehensible reality. The universe is incredibly vast and full of possibilities. It contains billions of galaxies and trillions of planetary systems. According to all laws of physics and mathematics, space should be a noisy place. Advanced civilizations should leave radio traces in space. Their powerful technologies would inevitably fill the cosmic ether with artificial waves. We expected to hear a whole symphony of signals coming from all directions. Our technologies are becoming more powerful every year. Engineers are constantly creating increasingly sensitive instruments to study the sky. We are building giant radio telescopes the size of entire valleys. A striking example is the massive Chinese radio telescope, which fills an entire natural basin among the mountains. Such scale allows us to detect even the faintest radio waves from deep space. Our orbital observatories scan space with incredible resolution. Telescopes beyond Earth's atmosphere see the universe without optical distortions. They take amazingly clear images of distant galaxies and star clusters. We are capable of detecting the whisper of stars millions of light-years away. It would seem we simply must hear at least something. Based on everything we know, this region of space should be active. Astronomers are closely studying dense clusters in our galaxy. Some of the oldest star systems are found there. These stars formed billions of years ago. The planets orbiting such stars had an enormous amount of time to develop undisturbed. In theory, life could have emerged there long before Earth came into existence. If evolution followed a similar path, intelligent beings would have appeared there a very long time ago. Logic suggests that their technology would have long since surpassed our modest achievements. They could be building gigantic structures to harvest energy from their stars. The ether must be overflowing with artificial signals. We have prepared for a long and complex search. Special programs analyze massive streams of radar data around the clock. Scientists have created highly complex algorithms to filter out cosmic noise. The universe constantly emits radiation from supernova explosions and other violent phenomena. We need to carefully separate this chaos from the ordered signals. We have learned to distinguish natural pulsars from artificial beacons. Rotating neutron stars emit rhythmic sounds very similar to the operation of a transmitter. But now, powerful computers easily recognize their natural origin. Every day, we process petabytes of information in the hope of a discovery. The search system works perfectly and without glitches. This is a normal and understandable model of our reality. We assume that the laws of physics work the same way in every corner of the universe. That means other civilizations must also use radio waves for communication. We know how to search and exactly what to look for. Researchers have identified specific frequencies that are best suited for communication. The scientific community was confident of imminent success. Many renowned astronomers dedicated their entire lives to the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. The reliability of our methods was beyond doubt. The equipment functioned flawlessly, and the scientific theories seemed flawless. All we had to do was wait and listen closely to the airwaves. For years, we pointed our instruments at the most promising sectors. Researchers compiled long lists of targets for ground-based and orbital telescopes. We selected stars similar to our own sun. Such yellow dwarfs live long enough for complex life forms to emerge. They provide stable heat and light to their planets. We searched for planets located in the ideal habitable zone. This is the distance from a star where water can exist in liquid form. Water is considered the primary and most important condition for the emergence of living organisms. All indicators pointed to a high probability of success. It was a well-thought-out and logical strategy. The anticipation of first contact became part of our culture. Writers and filmmakers created thousands of works about the coming encounter with aliens. People sincerely believed that we were on the verge of a great discovery. Millions of volunteers even installed special programs on their home computers to assist scientists. This united humanity in a shared hope. Research centers around the world worked as a single mechanism. Observatories constantly exchanged data and verified each other's discoveries. No one doubted that one day the silence would be broken. We waited for that very day when the voices of other worlds would ring out from our speakers. It seemed only a matter of time and technology, but time passed, and the results remained zero. Decades of meticulous and continuous observations of the night sky went by. The cosmic silence remained absolutely deafening and insurmountable. At first, it seemed like mere bad luck or a technical glitch. Researchers thought they were simply looking in the wrong direction. We attributed it to the insufficient sensitivity of our antennas. It seemed that alien transmitters were too weak for our outdated equipment. Scientists simply asked for more funding for new projects. Governments willingly allocated money for yet another equipment upgrade. No one saw anything alarming in this. We continued to believe in a bustling, vibrant universe. Scientists recalculated the formulas estimating the number of civilizations in the galaxy time and again. Our hopes were based on solid mathematical calculations. According to all predictions, the Milky Way should literally be teeming with life. We were convinced that we simply hadn't tuned in to the right frequency yet. Reality seemed stable and predictable. We firmly believed in the power of the human mind and the triumph of Earth's science. Engineers expanded search ranges and improved recognition programs, but we were deeply mistaken in our expectations. But we hear nothing. Absolutely nothing. The great silence of space has become the central mystery of modern astronomy. The radio spectrum has remained eerily silent throughout decades of continuous searching. It is as if we are shouting into a completely empty and dark room. The instruments show a perfect, eerie void in the radio spectrum. The most sensitive antennas on Earth detect only the natural cosmic background. The data doesn't just fail to match our elegant theory, it completely refutes it with every new attempt. Something is definitely not going according to plan. Instead of the expected noise from civilizations, we get only static background noise. This faint hiss has remained since the time of the Big Bang. It's as if someone simply turned off the sound throughout the entire vast universe. We find not even the slightest hint of alien communications or distress signals. We look at the stars, where sources of artificial radio waves should definitely be. Astronomers select the oldest and most stable planetary systems to listen to, but the airwaves are dead across all frequencies available to us. Such total silence simply defies belief. It contradicts all laws of probability. The better our instruments become, the quieter space gets. Before, we could easily chalk up this eerie silence to weak telescopes. Scientists hoped that a new generation of technology would quickly solve this problem. We built giant arrays of antennas, linked into a single network across the globe. Now that old excuse about poor technology no longer holds water. We see and hear everything more clearly than ever before in human history. Modern computers are capable of extracting a useful signal even from strong interference. And this unprecedented clarity only underscores the absolute emptiness around us. At first, we genuinely thought it was just an unfortunate equipment malfunction. Engineers spent months checking and rechecking every tiny detail of the radio telescopes. They searched for blind spots, software glitches, and defects in the receivers. No one wanted to believe the terrifying reality of what was happening. Specialists tested the software and calibrated the ultra-sensitive sensors hundreds of times. They pointed the antennas at known Earth satellites to check the connection. It turned out that all the complex equipment was working perfectly. The instruments picked up test signals without the slightest distortion. The problem clearly wasn't with our machines, and that's when we began to notice something truly strange. This eerie silence was nothing like a simple absence of signals. It seemed unnaturally smooth and far too perfect, as if someone had carefully cut out all the extraneous sounds from the airwaves. Natural space always generates chaotic and random noise. Stars are born, explode, and pulsate, filling space with radio waves. We should be hearing this primordial chaos in all its diversity. But instead, we see before us a completely smooth wall of emptiness. The collected data looks as if any intelligible signal is being deliberately suppressed. This bears no resemblance to a simple absence of life or advanced technology. Rather, it resembles the workings of a gigantic jamming system. Someone is intentionally hiding their presence from prying eyes and ears. It looks like a global and targeted jamming of any meaningful activity. What we see before us is not a natural void, but a masterfully crafted artificial barrier. Not a single bit of data penetrates this invisible wall. Someone or something seems to be ruthlessly erasing information from the airwaves. Imagine you are in a huge, packed stadium. Around you, tens of thousands of fans are waving their arms and cheering. You can clearly see these people opening their mouths and shouting with all their might. But somehow, not a single sound reaches your ears. You stand in the center of a roaring crowd, yet you are in a vacuum of absolute silence. This is exactly what our puzzled astronomers are observing right now in deep space. We see billions of galaxies teeming with active physical life. But the acoustic picture does not match our bold expectations at all. We have thoroughly re-examined the most active and brightest radio galaxies. At their centers lie supermassive black holes devouring matter. Colossal bursts of energy occur there every single day. These processes are visible from the other end of the observable universe. Scientists have been searching for anomalies in these powerful radiation streams. But even through this monstrous cosmic noise, we find no traces of intelligence. It is as if an impenetrable, powerful filter has been set up at a specific communication frequency, and it strictly prevents anything superfluous from escaping into open space. This discovery completely shatters our established understanding of the physics of the universe. Modern science simply does not know of any natural mechanisms capable of such total suppression. Any radiation must eventually reach our detectors. The laws of optics and radiophysics must work the same everywhere. No cosmic gas or dense dust cloud can block radio waves so perfectly. They may dim light, but radio signals easily pass through such barriers. There must be some fundamentally different reason for this anomaly, and we cannot even begin to imagine it yet. Puzzled scientists have begun to formulate new, even bolder and more frightening hypotheses. Theories have emerged about a great barrier that destroys civilizations at a certain stage. The good old theories about friendly aliens are being discarded one after another. The scientific world finds itself on the brink of a massive crisis. We realize with alarm that the reality around us is far more complex and dangerous. Our familiar picture of a safe world has suffered a massive and irreparable crack. Perhaps the complete silence of space hides something greater. And this is only the beginning of our problems. And here, the situation gets significantly worse. This isn't just a single strange observation in one sector of the boundless sky. We see the exact same anomaly again and again every night. It appears in different databases around the world in perfect synchrony. Various independent telescopes on different continents are recording the exact same thing. Scientists compare their data and realize with horror the scale of what is happening. At first, researchers thought the phenomenon was limited to our own galaxy. We tried to look far beyond the Milky Way. Astronomers pointed powerful instruments at the Andromeda Nebula and other star clusters, but the results turned out to be even more disappointing and frightening. The exact same global effect of radio wave suppression is observed in neighboring galaxies. This ominous silence extends far beyond the limits of our understanding. It spans millions of light-years of empty intergalactic space. Scientists had hoped to find at least one tiny island of intelligent life in neighboring systems. Instead, they discovered only a dead vacuum and a complete absence of artificial activity. The problem turned out to be truly cosmic in scale. In an attempt to find an answer, we changed frequencies and scanning ranges hundreds of times. Researchers shifted from familiar radio waves to optical and infrared spectra. We searched for powerful laser flashes that civilizations might use to transmit information. Astronomers tried to detect thermal anomalies from giant megastructures around alien stars. It seemed to us that simply changing our search method would be enough to achieve success. But this strange barrier of silence operates at absolutely every level of observation. Infrared sensors do not detect excess heat from advanced alien manufacturing facilities. Optical telescopes do not register the rhythmic flashes of directed beacons. No signal can penetrate this dense, invisible wall. All our technical ingenuity shatters against the insurmountable barrier of silence. With every new, costly study, the scale of this problem only grows rapidly. The planet's brightest minds have finally realized that this is not a random malfunction of complex equipment. This is a frightening systemic pattern that is deeply embedded in the very fabric of the cosmos. The deeper we peer into the dark abyss, the more clearly we see this selective filter. This phenomenon effectively blocks any attempt at communication across vast interstellar distances. It acts as a perfect insulator for any meaningful flow of information. Scientists around the world are racking their brains over the physical nature of this baffling phenomenon. No modern theory is capable of logically explaining such a massive anomaly. In search of a solution, astrophysicists began reanalyzing the dusty archives of past decades. Scientists dug up old records from the very first primitive radio telescopes of the mid-20th century. It turned out that clear signs of severe suppression had been present there from the very beginning of observations. It's just that back then, no one paid them the attention they deserved. In those years, we naively attributed this strange background noise to technical error or poor equipment. Radio astronomy was only taking its very first tentative steps in studying the sky. Researchers considered uniform silence to be the norm for imperfect terrestrial instruments. But now we realize with horror the magnitude of our fatal mistake from the past. This is definitely not a local phenomenon that we can simply ignore. We cannot simply point our telescope in another direction and forget about this forever. No matter where we look in the night sky, we inevitably hit a brick wall. The surrounding ether is so unthinkably clear that it causes genuine panic. This completely contradicts the very nature of a turbulent and chaotic universe. Just imagine the true scale of what could cause such an effect. To suppress signals across such vast territories requires truly incredible power. It is a colossal amount of energy that far exceeds the capabilities of entire galaxies. We know of no natural physical processes of such a high order. This lies completely beyond the scope of our modern Earth-based science. Some desperate scientists speculate that massive clusters of dark matter act as a shield. Other physicists confidently speak of unknown hidden properties of space and time itself. Bold theories are put forward about multidimensionality and the absorption of radio waves by quantum fluctuations. Theorists publish dozens of new scientific papers every day in an attempt to explain it. But none of these complex hypotheses explains the strange selectivity of the invisible filter. The natural chaotic noise of the cosmos from dead stars reaches our antennas without the slightest problem. We hear the natural radiation of hydrogen and the powerful bursts of distant quasars perfectly well. Only those structured patterns that could be artificial are strictly blocked. If all these terrifying conjectures are true, then the situation is completely beyond our control. This directly implies that someone incredibly powerful is deliberately maintaining this strict regime of silence. Or there is some merciless law of nature in our reality that we do not yet know about. Either of these two options sounds extremely alarming for all of humanity. We have suddenly encountered an absolutely insurmountable limit to our knowledge. Despite all these grim discoveries, we continue to send our own messages into the darkness. Huge transmitters regularly broadcast information about our planet and culture into space. We shout loudly into the void in the naive hope that at least someone will hear and understand us. But each of our powerful signals also vanishes irrevocably into this strange, absorbing void. We receive not even a faint echo of our own words, and we do not know what happens to our signals out there. This is not happening only here and now. Astronomers are constantly analyzing fresh data from the latest observatories. We are beginning to clearly see similar, frightening patterns in the most diverse corners of our vast universe. With every new scan of the sky, the situation becomes increasingly intriguing. The previously observed radio anomaly no longer seems like a simple local glitch in the matrix or an equipment error. It is rapidly taking on a frighteningly universal and all-encompassing character. Scientists are concluding that there is some kind of fundamental barrier. It is a harsh rule that applies absolutely everywhere, without the slightest exception. Over the past decades, we have thoroughly scanned thousands of the star systems closest to us. Researchers have searched for technosignatures in sun-like stars and red dwarfs. We have tried to peer into the densest star clusters right at the center of our home galaxy. There, the concentration of matter and potential worlds is incredibly high. To ensure the purity of the experiment, we even checked the giant dark voids between the massive galactic filaments. Astrophysicists hoped to detect echoes of ancient civilizations in these desolate regions of space. But everywhere, the same effect of absolute radio silence is consistently observed. In all of observable space, there is not a single safe haven where the laws of nature operate differently. If this is indeed true, then this discovery completely changes everything in our understanding of the universe. It directly implies that the observed alarming phenomenon is by no means a random, isolated event. The scientific community is forced to reevaluate the most basic principles of astrobiology. We are about to embrace a completely new paradigm of reality. It turns out that we live in a universe that seems to be deliberately hiding any valuable information. Either outer space itself, for some unknown reason, is hostile to the propagation of artificial signals, or our entire solar system is in a kind of quarantine of gigantic proportions. Both of these hypotheses force us to seriously reflect on our place in the world. The true scale of this cosmic anomaly simply defies comprehension by the ordinary human mind. This is definitely not a local invisible wall built only around our solar system. The problem is of a far more fundamental and profound nature. We have encountered a phenomenon that permeates the very fabric of space. It is a gigantic absorbing web that tightly envelops the entire boundless cosmos visible to us. It is distributed with surprising uniformity across all observable sectors of the night sky. An ominous silence hangs equally thick over every constellation and every nebula. None of the galaxy's potential inhabitants can escape the influence of this global filter. For many years, we romantically imagined that the universe was like a vast, open ocean. Scientists sincerely believed that communication between distant stellar islands would be easy. We thought we could sit freely on our shore and listen to radio waves from other planets. Projects aimed at finding extraterrestrial intelligence were built precisely on this optimistic concept. But now, it has suddenly turned out that this boundless ocean is rigidly divided by insurmountable invisible walls. Artificial, meaningful sound is simply incapable of traversing these colossal interstellar distances. Signals fade or are deliberately blocked on their way to our antennas. As a result, every star system finds itself forever isolated within its own information bubble. Fresh data from the latest ultra-powerful orbital telescopes only confirm astrophysicists' worst fears. Instruments like the James Webb Space Telescope find no signs of large-scale engineering around other stars. Moreover, the detected suppression anomaly itself has a surprisingly precise geometric and mathematical structure. Physicists see strict and alarming patterns in this data. This blockage of the ether is too precise and stable to be a typical spontaneous natural phenomenon. Random processes in space usually create chaos, not a perfect void. It looks exactly as if someone incredibly powerful has established strict rules of the game for everyone. And only now, after years of searching, have we begun to tentatively grasp these harsh laws of the universe. Just imagine for a moment that every advanced civilization is locked inside a huge soundproof room. Intelligent beings can evolve peacefully on their home planets for millions of years. They can successfully build incredible megastructures and study their local star systems in detail. Their technologies can reach staggering heights within their closed world. But for all their greatness, they would never be able to reach out to their nearest cosmic neighbors. All their powerful directed signals would inevitably be swallowed up by this strange cosmic isolation. They would feel utterly alone in a galaxy teeming with life. This is a sad fate that seems to be reserved for absolutely all intelligent species, without exception. Such strict isolation brilliantly explains why we still do not see large-scale galactic empires. The famous Fermi paradox finally receives its grim and logical resolution. Any attempt at technological expansion or interstellar communication is simply nipped in the bud. The exchange of information between civilizations becomes physically impossible. It turns out that the Great Filter is not located in our distant evolutionary past or vague future at all. This insurmountable barrier tightly surrounds us right now at absolutely every point in observable space. It functions as a perfect silencer of any artificial radioactivity, and it categorically prevents anyone from loudly announcing their existence to the entire galaxy. For centuries, all of our Earth-based physics has been firmly built on the optimistic concept of an open and permeable universe. We firmly believed that radio waves and encrypted information could travel through a vacuum indefinitely. Scientists sent messages to distant stars in the hope of receiving a reply thousands of years later. No one doubted the very possibility of such distant contact, but now the scientific community will have to completely rewrite the most basic laws of modern astrophysics. The observable universe has turned out to be a much darker, harsher, and more closed-off place than we ever imagined. Ordinary light from stars can travel freely across billions of light years. However, any artificial signals and messages are mercilessly lost in this abyss. Now, we look at the familiar night sky with completely different, anxious eyes. Astronomers realize that behind every twinkling light lies a great mystery. There, among the countless shining stars, a vast array of diverse life may indeed be hidden. Space may literally be teeming with fellow sentient beings. But all these highly advanced civilizations are just as cosmically deaf and blind as we are on our tiny Earth. We are all doomed to gaze forever at the same impenetrable wall of great silence. Trillions of intelligent beings are separated by the cruel laws of unknown physics, and no one can pierce through it. If our models don't work there, then they are wrong everywhere. The fundamental laws of physics must be the same in every corner of the observable universe. An error in calculations over vast distances implies a critical error in the very basic principles of science. This applies not only to distant galaxies that are completely out of our reach. It directly concerns the very place where we are right now. Our own solar system is subject to the same strict rules of the cosmic game. We, too, are an integral part of this strange and locked-in system. Such a discovery completely overturns our complacent understanding of our own planetary security. This frightening problem is rapidly ceasing to be purely academic and distant from ordinary people. Physicists and astronomers can no longer calmly discuss it in closed observatories. It directly concerns the very basic structure of the reality in which we live every day. A scientific paradox has suddenly turned into the most pressing threat to all of humanity. Scientists are asking the logical question about the fate of our own terrestrial transmissions. If artificial signals from outside are blocked so effectively, what happens to ours? We have been broadcasting carelessly into open space continuously for over a century. But perhaps all our radio transmissions and powerful messages die out as soon as they leave the confines of the solar system. In light of these grim discoveries, the most terrifying question of all arises. Scientists are trying to understand the true motives behind the creation of such a grandiose cosmic barrier. If this absolute silence is artificially maintained, then for what purpose is it being done? Who or what needed to expend colossal energy to isolate star systems? Perhaps some ancient creators are trying to protect us from something terrible in the dark cosmos. This invisible wall may serve as a reliable shield against merciless galactic threats. Or, conversely, a higher intelligence is hiding us from other worlds as a dangerous and aggressive infection. Any of these answers is enough to make even the most skeptical researcher's blood run cold. For decades, our greatest fear was finding ourselves utterly alone in the boundless universe. The prospect of Earth's life being unique terrified philosophers with its incredible emptiness and meaninglessness. It seemed to us the greatest and most irreparable tragedy for our entire intelligent species. We desperately sought out fellow sentient beings to share the burden of cosmic loneliness with them. But now we realize with horror that there are things in the cosmos far worse than complete solitude. We may well be densely surrounded by thousands of highly advanced and ancient civilizations. The Milky Way may literally teem with intelligent life forms on neighboring stars, and all of them are hiding in panic or have been forcibly silenced by something infinitely superior. Our ambitious future as a successful spacefaring species suddenly finds itself under a massive threat. Humanity has always made grand plans to colonize distant planets and star systems. We sincerely plan to leave our earthly cradle once and for all and set out for the stars. Writers created beautiful worlds of universal galactic prosperity. We naively dreamed of peaceful contact and the free exchange of valuable knowledge with our extraterrestrial neighbors. People wanted to share their culture and learn the secrets of advanced alien technologies. Now, these bright dreams seem incredibly foolish and, perhaps, deadly dangerous to our survival. We have absolutely no idea of the harsh rules by which this ruthless cosmos operates. In scientific circles, the popular dark forest theory from science fiction is being discussed more and more often. Perhaps those careless civilizations that tried to shout too loudly have already vanished forever. Their powerful and regular radio transmissions could have attracted the close attention of that very mechanism that suppresses signals. Any attempt to make themselves known could have been the final mistake in their long history. We have absolutely no idea whether this cleansing force possesses its own consciousness and intelligence. It could be a soulless natural algorithm or the legacy of a long-extinct super-civilization, but we can see very clearly the results of its incredibly effective and utterly ruthless work. The entire visible universe maintains a deathly silence, and this silence looks like animal fear. The real and most pressing problem is that we have long since and carelessly revealed ourselves. Since the invention of radio, we have been continuously broadcasting our transmissions in all directions of space. We are physically unable to retrieve the powerful radio waves we have already emitted into space. The sphere of our terrestrial signals has already expanded to 100 light-years in all directions from the Sun. If a ruthless predator truly lurks in this cosmic darkness, it surely already knows our exact coordinates. And if it is some kind of punitive automated system, we are simply doomed to await its inevitable response. Humanity can only guess how long it will take for this threat to reach our planet. Our former sense of security turned out to be nothing more than a sweet illusion based on profound ignorance. Leading scientists who have dedicated their lives to the search for extraterrestrial life are now experiencing a profound professional crisis. Observatories continue their work, but the atmosphere within them has become heavy and oppressive. What once began as a bold and joyful exploration has quickly turned into global paranoia. Astronomers fear that they may be the first to witness the approach of an inevitable catastrophe. Every new thorough analysis of space data brings scientists only new serious reasons for alarm. We have finally fully realized our absolute vulnerability in the face of this colossal cosmic unknown. Earthly technologies are laughably primitive compared to forces capable of obliterating entire galaxies. Our former scientific optimism has rapidly and irrevocably given way to cold, existential terror. For centuries, we proudly believed that we were in complete control of our complex destiny on this beautiful planet. Humans conquered nature, split the atom, and sent their spacecraft to the edges of the solar system. We sincerely considered ourselves the undisputed pinnacle of evolution in our small, cozy world. It seemed to us that only endless progress and the conquest of new stellar frontiers lay ahead. But on the vast scale of the universe, we suddenly found ourselves trapped in a cramped informational cage. And the most terrifying thing is that we don't even have the faintest idea what its invisible bars are made of. Our science is powerless to explain the physical nature of this global cosmic isolator. This discovery completely and mercilessly shatters our inflated human ego and our familiar worldview. With each passing year, every new astronomical discovery leaves us feeling increasingly frightened and isolated. Radio telescopes continue to scan the void, but now scientists hope to hear nothing at all. We no longer seek wise and kind friends among the bright constellations of the night sky. The era of romantic space exploration has quietly come to an end, giving way to an age of total survival. Now, we are simply desperately trying to figure out how to survive safely in this strange and hostile silence. Our true, humble place in the universe turned out to be quite different from what we had joyfully anticipated in the past. Humanity must go through a difficult stage of accepting its powerlessness in the face of the cosmic abyss, and we will have to learn to live with this new reality. The scariest thing is the realization of our total lack of understanding. The real problem is not at all that there are no cosmic signals. The real problem is that we have absolutely no idea what exactly is blocking them so effectively. We have suddenly found ourselves face to face with a completely unknowable and alien phenomenon. Our logic simply refuses to work on such an unimaginable scale. Modern humanity has neither suitable mathematical formulas nor physical theories to describe it. The planet's brightest minds sit for days on end at supercomputers in fruitless attempts to find a solution. Any proposed hypothesis is immediately shattered by new data from orbital telescopes. The scientific world has plunged into a state of profound confusion and helplessness. We are like primitive people trying to understand the workings of a complex mechanism. If we have absolutely no understanding of the true cause of what is happening, we have no way of predicting the consequences. We do not know how stable this frightening barrier around our solar system is. Perhaps it has been here for millions of years, protecting us from a hostile environment. But just as easily, it could turn out to be a temporary anomaly with an unpredictable outcome. There is a terrifying possibility that one day this shield will simply vanish without the slightest warning. Or even worse, it will begin to rapidly contract around our planetary system. In that case, we would find ourselves trapped with no chance of escape. We are completely blind in our predictions for humanity's future in this cosmos. All we can do is passively watch the unfolding mystery. Meanwhile, we have continued and continue to spend billions on building new radio telescopes and massive observatories. Governments are allocating colossal budgets to modernize existing antenna complexes. Engineers are creating incredibly sensitive receivers to detect the slightest fluctuations in the ether. But all this massive effort may turn out to be a completely pointless waste of resources. Perhaps we've simply been using the wrong tools for the search year after year. We are literally trying to hear ordinary sound in a deep vacuum, where there is no air to transmit waves. Our Earth-based science may be too primitive to solve such a monumental task. It seems we have hit an impenetrable ceiling of our own intellect and technological development. The paradox is that the more we look into space, the less sense it makes. Every new batch of data we receive only confuses us even more and spawns new questions. We find strange anomalies that completely contradict the known laws of physics. Cosmology has turned from an exact science into a collection of inexplicable mysteries. The answers we long for constantly slip away from us, like dry sand through the fingers of researchers. We have finally realized that our current understanding of physics is laughably small on the scale of the universe. All our great discoveries have turned out to be just a tiny drop in the ocean of cosmic mysteries. Reality is actually much stranger and more complex than any of our wildest imaginings. Some philosophers and neuroscientists suggest that the barrier is created by our own minds, as if our collective consciousness is simply not yet physically ready to perceive the true picture of the world. Evolution designed our brains for survival on Earth, not for understanding the multidimensional cosmos. Therefore, our psyche may block shocking information from the outside world for the sake of self-preservation. According to this theory, we see through telescopes only what our brains are capable of safely processing. Everything else is ruthlessly filtered out by our subconscious as unnecessary and deadly noise. We may live in a densely populated universe, but simply lack the sensory organs to perceive it. This profound philosophical idea frightens scientists no less than complex physical theories. For centuries, we naively believed that we had finally understood exactly how the vast universe works. We were incredibly proud of our rigorous laws of thermodynamics and complex equations of quantum mechanics. Physicists confidently sketched out models of the expansion of space and the birth of new galaxies. It seemed to us that we were just a couple of steps away from a complete understanding of the universe. But now, against the backdrop of the Great Silence, all our thick textbooks seem like nothing more than naive children's fairy tales. All of Earth's science looks like a crude attempt to measure the depth of the ocean with a short ruler. We stand alone on the shore of an endless dark ocean of terrifying uncertainty. And we are desperately afraid to take even a single small step forward into this terrifying darkness. If this total cosmic isolation is indeed real, then we are missing something truly fundamental. Something so important and basic that we cannot even properly put it into words. This blind spot in our perception prevents us from seeing the true picture of the universe. We are like fish that are unaware of the water surrounding them. It is quite possible that we are searching for vital answers in entirely the wrong dimensions and at the wrong frequencies. The real, living, and bustling universe is securely hidden from us behind a dense energetic veil. Behind this screen, monumental events may be unfolding and billions of civilizations may be communicating. And we still have no idea how to lift this invisible veil. Every clear evening, billions of ordinary people gaze in awe at the endless starry sky. To them, it seems majestically serene, incredibly peaceful, and absolutely unchanged for centuries. Romantics dedicate poems to the stars, and dreamers make wishes upon falling meteors. No one down below suspects the horror that astronomers experience in their observatories. But now, researchers know for certain that behind this cold beauty lies a massive systemic failure. A brutal and vast drama of unimaginable galactic proportions is unfolding there, invisible to our eyes. Someone or something powerful has permanently placed this sector of space under strict quarantine. And we, without wanting to, are helpless hostages of this monumental situation. Perhaps we will never learn the bitter truth about this ominous cosmic silence. Humanity simply won't have time to reach the necessary level of technological development to break through the barrier. We will remain forever prisoners of our ignorance on this tiny blue planet. This thought renders many of today's global space programs meaningless. Sooner or later, our advanced technologies will finally hit this invisible barrier and come to a complete halt. This could become the very fatal and final dead end for humanity's physical development. We will find ourselves locked in a cage the size of a single solar system forever, and we will be completely powerless to do anything about it, despite our immense desire. Because of all these discoveries, we no longer await extraterrestrial signals with the same sincere hope. The romance of first contact has given way to an anxious anticipation of the unknown. Now, this ringing silence on the airwaves sounds to us like a direct and clear threat. Every day without a signal only confirms the darkest conjectures of astrophysicists. Scientists continue to listen to the void, but now they fear what they might find there. The better we listen, the more terrifying this absolute dead silence becomes. Our loneliness has turned into a primal fear of the unknown, hidden in the darkness, and we still don't know why. Scientists began searching for explanations in the darkest corners of sociology and biology. When classical physics and astronomy reached a dead end, other disciplines came to the rescue. Researchers turned to the basic survival instincts of living creatures. If science cannot logically explain this total silence, perhaps the answer lies in behavior. Nature on Earth is full of examples of how prey are forced to hide from predators. In the wild, there is only one reason why an entire forest suddenly falls silent. Birds stop singing, and insects cease making their usual sounds. This happens when a hungry and extremely dangerous predator is hiding in the bushes. All inhabitants instinctively freeze so as not to accidentally reveal their location. And now our entire vast universe resembles just such a silent, dark forest. This theory sounds frighteningly simple and mathematically logical to our understanding. It was proposed by writers, but quickly found resonance in serious science. Sociologists understand that the laws of evolution are ruthless toward all forms of life, without exception. Imagine a dense nighttime forest, full of diverse but carefully hidden life. Every rustle in this darkness could mean certain death. In this model, every civilization is an armed hunter, cautiously creeping between the trees. All possess their own technologies, limited resources, and a fierce desire to survive at any cost. No one knows the true intentions of the other inhabitants of this dark and cold space. Everyone fears the first strike, and therefore prefers to attack first at the slightest threat. In such paranoid conditions, any sound made instantly becomes a death sentence. Whoever carelessly reveals themselves first immediately attracts the attention of everyone else. A bright signal on the radio waves acts like a flare in pitch darkness. In the boundless cosmos, where resources are ultimately limited, fierce competition is inevitable. This struggle for survival can take the most radical and ruthless forms. No one will waste precious time on lengthy negotiations with the potential enemy. The survival of one's own species will always take precedence over any interstellar diplomacy. No leader would risk their home planet for the sake of a faint hope of friendship with aliens. Therefore, the most advantageous and logical strategy is absolute, paralyzing silence on all sides. It is best to simply lie low and listen carefully, without giving away one's presence in any way. And it is precisely this unnatural, deathly silence that we are now observing through our radio telescopes. If this grim hypothesis is correct, then the global suppression of signals is by no means an anomaly. It is not a physical malfunction, but a conscious choice made by all sentient beings in the galaxy. It is a powerful defense mechanism honed over billions of years of brutal cosmic evolution. Those species that made too much noise simply did not survive to the present day. Only the quietest, most incredibly cunning, and extremely suspicious civilizations remain. Highly advanced species can deliberately and very effectively jam their own and other sectors of space. They use enormous amounts of energy to create impenetrable information shields around stars. They build gigantic technological barriers to conceal their exact location from external threats. No one wants to become an easy target for a more advanced and aggressive neighbor. Safety in this cruel world is guaranteed only by complete invisibility and total isolation from neighbors. And this harsh rule makes our own position critically dangerous and vulnerable. Humanity does not yet possess the technology to camouflage an entire planet or the solar system. For a whole century, we have behaved like naive and carefree children. Our civilization has only just ventured into space and immediately began loudly proclaiming itself. We did not give a single thought to the possible catastrophic consequences of such childish openness. We shouted loudly into the darkness, telling everyone around us about our very existence. For decades, radio, television, and powerful military radars have been sending waves in all directions. We even deliberately sent gold records with our exact coordinates on spacecraft. Scientists sincerely believed that we would be met by kind and wise brothers in reason. We literally turned on a bright spotlight in the middle of a forest full of unknown predators. Our enormous radio trail has already spread a vast distance from our home planet. This invisible sphere expands at the speed of light every day without a single pause. It is physically impossible to erase, retract, or somehow disguise it retroactively. All our old TV broadcasts and scientific signals continue their endless journey among the stars. We have left a very clear trail in space, leading straight to our fragile home. If someone powerful and hostile is nearby, they have already received our open invitation. These invisible hunters don't even need to make an effort to search for new habitable worlds. We ourselves have thoughtfully provided them with all the information they need to strike a precise blow. We have not merely violated the cardinal rule of survival in this harsh cosmos. We have done so with pride and an incredible, unfounded joy. Every new massive antenna we are building now only compounds our fatal mistake. We continue to regularly send directed radio pulses to nearby star systems. We are stubbornly trying to break through the very filter that could have saved our lives all these years. Instead of immediately going into hiding, we continue to persistently knock on closed doors. This behavior looks like complete suicidal madness from the perspective of cosmic survival. Our scientists sincerely rejoice at every powerful pulse sent to distant stars. Projects actively seeking contact receive funding and broad public support. But these beautiful pulses may be the last thing we ever manage to do as a species. Any response signal may turn out to be not a friendly greeting, but a destructive weapon. Ignorance of the harsh rules of the game does not exempt anyone from cruel cosmic punishment. Now, every inexplicable, powerful phenomenon in space causes us double alarm. Before, we looked at the night sky with purely scientific interest and admiration. A distant supernova explosion no longer seems like just a beautiful physical process of a star dying. Astronomers are beginning to seriously doubt the natural origin of many cosmic cataclysms. Anxiety is gradually replacing the pure and bright joy of discovering the universe. What if these are the terrifying consequences of a large-scale conflict between those who once carelessly disturbed the silence? The use of exotic, super-powerful weapons may appear to us as ordinary natural anomalies. What if entire star systems are being deliberately destroyed for the sake of maintaining general security? Perhaps someone is simply preemptively clearing out sectors from which the slightest suspicious noise emanates. We simply do not know how to correctly interpret these frightening and destructive signals of distant wars. Our familiar perception of the universe has changed forever and completely irrevocably. The era of naive earthbound romanticism in the exploration of deep space has come to its logical end. Space no longer looks like a friendly place for future great discoveries. It has turned into a vast minefield where a single misstep inevitably leads to disaster. Humanity will have to learn to live with this constant, oppressive sense of threat. The stars above our heads are no longer alluring worlds for exciting journeys. We no longer dream of easily building giant colonies near other stars. These twinkling points of light now inspire in us only a cold dread and unease. They are cold eyes that stare intently and very silently at us from the abyss. Space looks down on us mercilessly, assessing our weakness and carelessness. And the most terrifying thing about this whole situation is our absolute primal defenselessness. We have neither a powerful orbital defense nor any means of escaping through a mass exodus from the planet. If a response finally comes from the darkness, we will be unable to oppose it. Earth will be utterly helpless in the face of any interstellar threat. Our entire nuclear arsenal will be useless against those capable of silencing galaxies. Our advanced technologies are laughably primitive compared to those who set the rules in space. To them, we are like ants trying to attract the attention of a giant machine. All we can do is sit quietly and hope that no one has noticed us in all this commotion. Perhaps our radio signals were too weak for alien receivers. Or perhaps the barrier of silence is strong enough to conceal our historical folly. But there is another, even more disturbing interpretation of our long-standing observations. What if this all-encompassing silence is directed exclusively against us? Scientists are seriously discussing the so-called space zoo, or isolation chamber, hypothesis. Perhaps the blocking filter was not installed to protect the vast universe from internal threats. Perhaps it is needed to reliably isolate humanity itself from the rest of the galactic community. When viewed from this angle, the picture becomes truly frightening. We may be in a kind of quarantine of gigantic, absolutely insurmountable proportions. This invisible boundary may lie right at the edge of our solar system. Higher intelligences could have erected this barrier long before the first humans appeared on Earth. They simply prepared a safe zone for the development of a potentially dangerous biological species. Think about how we ourselves deal with dangerous and unknown viruses. Epidemiologists do not try to negotiate with pathogenic bacteria or integrate them into society. We place them in sealed boxes with thick, impermeable walls made of durable materials. We artificially cut off any possibility for them to interact with the wider outside world. Their entire universe shrinks to the size of a small glass flask on a researcher's table. We carefully study their behavior through the safe, sturdy glass of a sterile laboratory. Scientists record cycles of reproduction and mutation without directly interfering with the natural process. What if someone far more intelligent applied exactly the same cold logic to us? To ancient super-civilizations, humanity might represent a classic virus of destruction, and they are simply watching to see how quickly we can destroy ourselves. Our own history on Earth is full of endless wars, brutal destruction, and massive technological disasters. We have not yet learned to live in peace even on our tiny blue planet. Each new generation invents ever more sophisticated ways to destroy its own kind. We split the atom and immediately create weapons of mass destruction instead of a source of cheap energy. Our moral qualities lag catastrophically behind our technological progress. To any truly ancient and wise civilization, we may appear as an aggressive and unpredictable threat. Who would want to let savages with nuclear missiles into their orderly stellar home? It would be entirely logical to securely lock away such a species until it has fully matured evolutionarily. An alien intelligence is simply waiting for us to outgrow our adolescent aggression and learn responsibility. Until that moment, any contact with us is strictly prohibited by galactic law. This quarantine theory perfectly explains why the barrier operates so selectively and with mathematical precision. It freely allows the light of distant stars to pass through so as not to disrupt the illusion of a normal physical world. Astronomers can freely study the spectra of galaxies and marvel at the birth of new stars. But this very same filter completely blocks any meaningful information that could accelerate our progress. The invisible wall functions as a perfect intellectual insulator. We are deliberately prevented from peeking at the answers to complex questions in others' technological drafts. Any hint from the outside could lead to the creation of even more terrifying weapons on Earth. Therefore, we are left to fend for ourselves on this isolated planet, amidst the void. Humanity will have to traverse the entire arduous path of knowledge on its own, without cosmic cheat sheets. Only in this way can a truly mature civilization, ready for contact, be formed. In that case, our massive radio telescopes are by no means windows into the living universe. They are merely cold mirrors that reflect our own informational void and profound loneliness. We constantly bump into the walls of our enormous aquarium and naively think that this is the edge of the world. Astrophysicists build complex models of the universe based on distorted data within this transparent bubble. Our science can study only that part of reality that we have been allowed to see. And beyond this invisible barrier, real, complex, and incredibly bustling life is in full swing. There may be vast transportation networks and entire federations of developed planets. This is a life to which we are categorically denied access, even from the most respectful distance. This thought deals a crushing blow to our collective human pride and sense of self-importance. We have grown accustomed to selfishly considering ourselves unique and incredibly important to the entire universe. But on the real scale of a global quarantine, we turn out to be nothing more than a petty, annoying, and potentially dangerous problem. They don't even attempt to openly control us or make any direct contact. We are simply being coldly ignored, with a reliable software or physical barrier established in space. Perhaps our home planet Earth is not the glorious cradle of reason at all, but a reservation for dangerous species. It is a strictly restricted zone, where access is forbidden to all decent inhabitants of the galaxy. In such reservations, aggressive young civilizations are left to the mercy of their own unpredictable fate. The Guardians are simply waiting for our internal global crisis to resolve itself naturally. If we destroy ourselves in the course of another war or environmental catastrophe, the barrier will simply fade away unnoticed. If we can overcome our vices, perhaps we will someday be officially released into deep space. But until we are ready for such a step, the silence will remain absolutely deafening and unyielding. All of this forces us to take a completely new look at all our ambitious space programs. We proudly plan to fly to Mars and build the first autonomous colonist bases there. We dream of gigantic interstellar ships capable of piercing space at tremendous speeds. But what if the solid boundaries of our invisible cage are much closer than we could ever imagine? What if we are never allowed to physically leave the confines of our own solar system? Any attempt to forcefully breach this established barrier could be viewed as an act of direct interstellar aggression. If we ever generate a signal that is too powerful, the quarantine system may respond with extreme severity. The automatic defense protocol is capable of involving more than just passive radio wave jamming. It may well contain effective mechanisms for actively suppressing any potential threat from within the cell. And we certainly do not want to test in practice exactly how these extreme measures work. We have found ourselves helpless hostages of our own beautiful illusions of freedom in the boundless cosmos. We must come to terms with the frightening and humiliating thought that we are far from being masters of our own destiny. I be under constant, close surveillance, but no one intends to speak to us as equals. We cry out desperately into the void in the hope of long-awaited friendship. But in response, we hear only the clanking of chains. And with each passing year, this hollow clanking grows ever clearer. But there is another level to this terrifying cosmic mystery. What if the very structure of our reality is not truly physical? Perhaps the barrier of silence is not an external device or a quarantine shield. Scientists are beginning to seriously discuss a completely different nature of our universe. It could be a systemic limitation of the very basic environment in which we all exist. We may be living inside an incredibly complex, artificially created simulation. This theory sounds like the plot of a science fiction movie, but it has a rigorous mathematical foundation. The power of computing systems is growing exponentially every year. It is quite possible that some super-civilization has already created a perfect virtual copy of the entire world. And this astonishing fact brilliantly explains absolutely all of our unsolvable astronomical paradoxes. We have always been accustomed to thinking of the universe as a vast material object surrounding us. We thought it was born as a result of a natural Big Bang billions of years ago. Stars and planets seem to us to be solid and absolutely real bodies. But this mathematically perfect silence in the ether looks completely unnatural for a chaotic world. It resembles program code far more than a wild natural phenomenon. The signal blocking operates with the precision of a well-tuned computer algorithm. Nature simply cannot create such smooth and uncompromising barriers over gigantic distances. When we look into the deepest corners of the cosmos, we see nothing but oddities and inconsistencies. For example, background microwave radiation contains huge cold spots. According to the laws of ordinary physics, they simply should not exist there in that form. The suppression of radio signals looks like a desperate attempt by the system to conserve its computational resources. The computer simply stops processing tasks that are not of paramount importance to the simulation. Rendering billions of complex civilizations with their technologies would require an unimaginable amount of RAM. Any processor would inevitably freeze under such an incredible influx of incoming data. Therefore, the system simply erases their radio traces to maintain the stability of the entire program. This perfectly and logically explains why we can clearly see galaxies, but hear absolutely nothing from them. Rendering the ordinary light of distant stars is quite easy for any powerful supercomputer. It is simply a flat, beautiful, glowing image in the farthest background. It serves merely as a backdrop and requires absolutely no in-depth elaboration of fine details. The observer is simply shown a beautiful starry sky to maintain the illusion of a vast world. But simulating intelligent life and its incredibly complex signals, that's a colossal system load. Every thought, every technical device, and every radio wave requires a separate calculation. That's why the clever control program thoughtfully mutes the sound for all these complex background processes. As a result, we find ourselves in a completely empty and strictly isolated server cell. And it seems to us that we are utterly alone in this boundless, lifeless space. Our modern, ultra-powerful telescopes are now literally bumping up against the invisible edge of the location. In ordinary video games, users often encounter an insurmountable boundary of the rendered virtual world. They see beautiful snow-capped mountains in the distance, but they simply cannot reach them programmatically. The great cosmic silence works exactly like this basic invisible wall. The distant shining stars are just beautiful digital textures on the vast dome of our world. And no signal will ever come from there, because there is physically no one there. If this is indeed the case, then all of our earthly physics is simply a set of made-up rules. The famous speed of light is not some unshakable fundamental law of true nature. It is merely the maximum data processing speed on this particular server hardware. And the strict suppression of signals is simply a built-in system firewall. It is needed solely to block unauthorized scripts and malicious processes. The program protects itself from information overload and critical hardware failures. Any excess noise is immediately cut off by special filters at the hardware level. As a result, we found ourselves permanently locked inside a cramped digital box with no windows or doors. Who could have possibly created this grandiose and endlessly terrifying computational construct? Perhaps it is some incredibly ancient race that survived the destruction of its own universe. These beings uploaded their consciousness into a secure matrix for eternal life. Or perhaps we are simply a random byproduct in a gigantic digital laboratory run by unknown programmers. They simply adjust the variables of the environment and watch the results on their monitors. These invisible creators are watching us evolve in complete informational isolation from other worlds. Absolute radio silence is merely a basic condition for the purity of their experiment. We are deliberately given no external cues so as not to disrupt the natural course of the testing. Any outside interference would immediately ruin all the statistical data being collected. Therefore, the airwaves will remain crystal clear until the very end of this massive simulation. This terrifying thought completely destroys any concept of our higher human purpose. Our great scientific discoveries, our profound sufferings, and our art, they are merely lines of soulless code. We are desperately fighting for our survival inside a gigantic machine that could simply be unplugged. Existential horror reaches its absolute insurmountable peak here. None of our achievements make any sense if the server is scheduled for a reboot tomorrow. We are utterly illusory in our quest to comprehend this fake mathematical reality. Despite this, we stubbornly send powerful radio signals into a system that coldly ignores them. It's very much like a game character desperately screaming into a drawn digital sky. The invisible creators do not interact at all with the code at our primitive and low level. They simply quietly release another software patch when something gets out of their control. And our overly loud attempts to contact the cosmos may be considered a critical system error. The antivirus system can automatically clear the infected sector of excess information noise. If we are too persistent in our search, the algorithm may try to correct us. A single imperceptible update to the base code is capable of erasing our advanced civilization in a fraction of a second. The silence of the ether is not a complex mystery, but a rigid structural limitation of the computational matrix. Our vast universe is a gigantic cell built from pure mathematics. We are hostages of a reality that isn't even truly alive. And this is the most terrifying discovery in the entire short history of our species. We have come very close to the very edge of our understanding of the surrounding universe. All of our latest astrophysical hypotheses lead to incredibly frightening and depressing conclusions. Scientists are desperately trying to find at least some logic in this global absence of radio signals. Whether it's the dark forest theory, an artificial strict quarantine, or a grand computer simulation, the essence of what is happening remains absolutely unchanged for all of our fragile humanity. We are forced to completely rethink our true place in this vast emptiness. We are incredibly small and utterly powerless in the face of this ominous cosmic silence. All we can do is stand silently before this utterly insurmountable barrier of the unknown. For many years, popular science promised us an exceptionally bright and joyful cosmic future. Science fiction writers described beautiful worlds of triumphant reason and universal interstellar brotherhood. We were told very convincingly that one day we would surely become full-fledged citizens of the galaxy. But harsh reality has taught us an extremely cruel and very cold lesson. The vast cosmos is certainly not waiting for us with open arms and friendly greetings. It would much rather we never raise our loud voices at all. The great silence makes it clear that there are very strict rules of survival, and we are forced to silently submit to this invisible dictate of a force that far surpasses us. Every new hypersensitive radio telescope now brings scientists far more fear than genuine hope. We stare intently at the monitors, terrified of seeing a response there, because any intelligible signal received will inevitably shatter our familiar, illusory world. If we hear an alien voice, we will have to immediately prepare for the worst-case scenario. This oppressive paranoia is gradually seeping into all modern space exploration programs. Absolute silence has long been our curse, yet it is also our greatest shield. As long as the endless dark cosmos remains silent, we can go about our daily lives in complete peace. People build cities, develop art, and plan their earthly future. Ignorance has proven to be a far more comfortable state for our incredibly fragile human psyche. We instinctively hide behind this wall of silence from global existential threats. But our basic human curiosity is physically impossible to simply turn off. We will inevitably continue to listen to this ominous void every long, clear night. Astronomers will stubbornly search for the slightest cracks in this invisible and impenetrable barrier. Our young species is evolutionarily programmed to continuously seek the truth about the universe. We are driven forward by a thirst for knowledge, no matter how terrifying that truth may be. We will persistently continue our research to the limits of all our technical capabilities, even if this bitter final truth threatens us with complete and inevitable annihilation. This unquenchable curiosity is our greatest curse and, at the same time, our greatest driving force. It was precisely this curiosity that once compelled us to come down from the trees and build the first spaceships. We simply cannot stop halfway to unraveling the great mysteries. Perhaps one day we ourselves will safely reach the incredible level of the creators of this barrier. We will overcome our internal destructive conflicts and enter a new stage of development. We will finally clearly understand why it was vitally necessary to carefully conceal our presence. And then we ourselves will voluntarily, consciously, and permanently shut down all our powerful radio transmitters. We will simply stop drawing unnecessary attention from the formidable inhabitants of the galactic depths. We will quietly and disciplined join this great cosmic silence for the sake of our own survival. This epical event will mark our final act of coming of age as a truly intelligent and responsible species. We will forever cease to be foolish, screaming children in this forest full of deadly dangers. Humanity will learn to listen to the universe without revealing its exact location to aggressive neighbors. Rational and cool caution will completely supplant our former reckless openness. But until then, we remain completely alone in our small planetary system. We continue to circle endlessly around a solitary yellow star on the very edge of the Milky Way. Our fragile blue planet flies through cold space, surrounded on all sides by a wall of silence. We diligently write our long history, completely unaware of whether there are any outside observers. This crushing uncertainty is the heaviest burden on our collective mind. And with every new decade, this invisible burden only grows heavier. Think about this frightening fact the next time you look at the night stars. You will never again see there the familiar, friendly, utterly open, and welcoming world. You will clearly see before you a gigantic enigma that deliberately and cruelly hides the answers from us. This beautiful, sparkling dome above our heads is full of incredible and, as yet, unsolvable mysteries. And the greatest of them lies in the true reason for the endless silence of the bottomless ether. We stand before a mystery capable of erasing our entire carefree existence. For centuries, we sincerely believed that we fully understood exactly how our own universe works. We were absolutely certain of our basic mathematical formulas and strict physical laws. But now, our best minds fearfully admit their complete intellectual helplessness in the face of the facts. The more intently we peer into this black abyss, the less logic remains in it. Our well-ordered modern cosmology is beginning to crack at the seams under the pressure of new, inexplicable discoveries. Our cutting-edge science has suddenly turned into a pitiful attempt to read a book locked tight with a padlock. And we have absolutely no chance yet of finding the right key to this complex mechanism. Perhaps the real hidden truth lies infinitely far beyond the limits of our feeble biological perception. Our primitive human brain is simply physically incapable of fully grasping the scale of this grandiose structure. Evolution has not prepared us in the slightest to understand phenomena of such colossal universal scope. We are like blind, frantic ants, desperately trying to understand the inner workings of a modern nuclear reactor. All we can do is passively record strange anomalies in the ether and make tentative guesses about their causes. And every new conjecture by alarmed astrophysicists turns out to be many times more terrifying than all previous theories. We wander blindly in impenetrable darkness without even the slightest reliable guide to our salvation. Science has turned into an endless wandering through a labyrinth with our eyes tightly shut. Our familiar reality turned out to be completely different from what we had always naively imagined. It is much deeper, far darker, and incomparably more complex than any of our wildest fantasies. Something truly very powerful is deliberately blocking all meaningful signals from the deep, cold cosmos, and we still have absolutely no idea why this process is happening right here around us. Perhaps it's better for us never to learn this truly terrifying truth. After all, some of the universe's most frightening secrets must remain hidden in the darkness forever.